Happy holidays, everyone, and welcome to a special live stream with Empower Radio. My name's Brent Carey, and I'm happy to be joined by Sharita Star, the host of Empower Scopes on Empower Radio. It's a weekly podcast where she looks at the energies and the week ahead. It's available at empowerradio.com and any place where you enjoy podcasts. Sharita, it's great to see you again.
Well, thank you. And you too, Brent, and happy holidays to you and all of our lovely and numerous and across the globe Empower Radio listeners. So I hope everyone is having, I know it's a simplistic holiday this year. It's a little different, but gratitude for the simple things that money can't buy is probably the best way we're going to spend our holidays, and enjoy that.
Yeah, great point. And you and I had a chance to do a live stream in August. And, we talked about a number of different things, and including some things ramping back up, regarding our COVID situation. And that certainly happened. And what's interesting to me is this time last year, you were kind of, you were giving everybody a heads up that it was going to be
my best. Nobody was listening. Well, some people were, but most people thought I was a little, touched in the head. What do you mean? What's going to happen unexpected in 2020?
Well, and that was your theme, wasn't it, for 2020? Was the unexpected?
Yeah, awakening the unexpected. Yeah.
So 2021, what is your label for the year ahead?
Changing global truth.
Okay. We're going to dive into that because there's a lot to unpack just in that short statement. But before we get into that, we still have a few days left in 2020, and we're just really a few hours before a major event. And I think a lot of people have probably even seen that shared on social media because it's so rare.
And it's all over the place. I mean, even if you're not a fan of astrology per se, this is, an astronomer's dream to watch this, So all you got to do is look up in the sky shortly after sunset. And you will see, it looks like you've been seeing it over the last few days because it's been around since like the 15th. They really got close. And these are the two planets of Saturn and Jupiter. And they were, about a few days ago, they were at the tail end of the sign of Capricorn. So they were, we would say in astrology, they're conjunct, but the exactitude of that they're actually going to meet at the precise mathematical point. It happens at 1:21 Eastern Standard Time p.m. tomorrow. We will enter winter solstice earlier in the morning. The sun officially goes into Capricorn early in the morning. We're winter solstice with that happening, which is always an auspicious time of the year. And a time where, everybody celebrates, they do some sort of ceremony, so on and so forth. But the fact that Saturn and Jupiter are aligned at 0 degrees of Aquarius precisely when they meet up is auspicious for humanity. And that's this little, I theme everything. As you know, what I do with the Empower Scopes every week, I toss in a little theme for the week. I do that with my lunar scopes that I write for the new and the full moon every month. I have a theme for everything. Theme for all the years, right? As we're working with them. And so this is transforming, this alignment tomorrow is transforming humanity's wisdom and truth. Because when you do anything meeting up at the 0 degree of a sign, like let's say they could meet up at 15 degrees of the sign, they could meet up at 27 degrees of the sign, but no, they're choosing to line up at 0. And that's auspicious because it's the tipping point, it's the entrance into the next phase. So it's like a very strong theme. When you're looking at the number 0 in numerology, you're looking at a rebirth and you're looking at the death of something else. And the past is gone. I kind of been trying to stress to people, very strongly in the 2020 theme as it is there's never, it's like Lindsey Buckingham sings from Fleetwood Mac, we're never going back again. We're just not. What we used to live and how we used to live is gone. And I'm not saying, we're going to lose our houses and we're going to lose everything, but the energy, the pulse, the lifestyle, the culture, the way the society worked, the globalization, the way all of that functions, it's gone. The systems are collapsing. They're breaking down. They're improving. Well, the hopes are that they're going to improve, which is what the 2021 conversation is going to be all about when we talk about that. But Saturn and Jupiter moving into Aquarius. Aquarius is the sign of the water bearer, symbolically. Mm-hmm. But what a lot of people get this confused in astrology, and I will clear up a little point, because everybody thinks Aquarius is a water sign because they're the water bearer in their symbol, but they're not a water sign. They're an air sign. They're the fixed, organized sign in the zodiac. So they are organizing, managing, and overseeing, bringing new life to things. Aquarian energy is very progressive. It's all about individuality and the freedom that the humanity can hold to still be a unit as one. But Aquarius wants freedom, and it wants individuality to be held by the humanity. So with Saturn and Jupiter, they're outer planets, but they're right next to, they're next to each other in like, how they orbit sit, So once you get out, when you go further out, the next one out from Jupiter is Saturn. So that's why when you're looking up in the sky after sunset, you've been seeing this over the past week. It looks like a giant star. It's pretty big. But I guess tomorrow it's supposed to be just like this huge, amazing thing. And I'm a little upset because it's going to be cloudy where I live and I'm not going to be able to see it. So I'm a little bummed about that. So I'm hoping to see some really cool pictures from other places in the globe. But I'm a slight disappointed. But I live in the Northeast, so it's winter here.
Yeah, I'm in the Midwest, so we have the same thing. How many years has it been since we had this alignment?
I'm going to have to tell you, I didn't do all the data on that. It's been a long time.
It's been a very long time. Yeah, I don't have the exact.
It's something like this. And it's not so much that, Saturn, everybody makes aspects to each other all the time and all these things, but it's the fact that it's at zero. Mm-hmm. It's the zero portion of the numerology conversation.
Yeah.
So poignant about this happening tomorrow, and that it's on winter solstice of all things. It's the darkest day of the year tomorrow, technically. And if you've been, whatever you're subscribing to in your belief system and what you do believe the truth is, you're watching, if you're in any kind of spiritual community, you're following these types of things. People are talking about dark days and people, there's energy in the dark right now. Things are coming out of the darkness. There's light going to illuminate things. And it's really what a lot of this energy of what this alignment is about. It's a trigger point that is going to start sparking what has been hidden from us as a humanity to start to be seen. Things we weren't told about, things we have been led to believe is something else. And we're going to just watch this start to happen. And of course, I always tell people, you need to know how this is working in your life. And, we always are going to be working with a collective energy. But how is it working in your personal life? Because this alignment of these two planets is happening in your own natal birth chart somewhere. And if you have other planets that this happens to have connections with in your personal chart, then tomorrow is so significant for what it means for you and what are you transforming about the truth and wisdom in your life, in your personal story. Because we've all got what's happening on the collective, but a lot of what this energy really wants humanity to do is to stop, pause, and really, really take a silent listen.
Well, we've had a lot of pause this year. It's time to do more of it, right?
Well, there was this, what I do with the lexicograms and the other thing I do aside from the astrology and the numerology is that I can take words, names, and titles, and then I do this fun little anagram thing with them and phrase those anagrams, which only means if you make an anagram, you're making another word, name, or title. You're like kind of, Linda Goodman called it spiraling, and you spell other words from the original only using the same letters that are in the original, and that's what the art form of anagramming is. But lexigramming is taking the anagrams you can derive and phrasing them like poetry or prose. So there was a piece I did on shelter in place back in late March, April, and the benefits of what it was trying to do. One of the things shelter in place tells us to do is peace in a silent listen. The theme of 2020, aside from awakening the unexpected, is also about taking a silent listen. And that's not going to stop in 21 either, if you're wise.
If you're just joining us, my name is Brent Carey. I'm joined by Sharita Star tonight, and we're talking about the year ahead and also some things that 2020 still has in store for us. And I want to let everybody know, too, that your comments are welcome. I want to say hi to Susan. She commented from Bayside, New York. Also,
Hi,
Jean
Susan.
Fisher is with us. And thank you to Petey, who commented, we were talking about how long it's been since we had that alignment.
I was going to say, I thought it was quite a number of years at the precise way that this is going on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah.
It really has. So we would love to know where you're from and appreciate you joining us tonight. We are going to dig into 2021 coming up, but following this alignment leading up to Christmas and then the last few days of the year, it sounds like things will just continue to build.
Well, now what'll happen after tomorrow is that Saturn and Jupiter start making their journey in Aquarius Jupiter's going to get through it by the middle of next year. And then he'll tootle into Pisces for a while, and then he goes retrograde because, all the planets retrograde. Even we're going to talk about what Mercury retrograde means in 21, which is going to be way more important than any other year you've ever been talked about or told about. Be aware of what Mercury retrograde is doing in life. It's going to rock the planet's world in 21. Every Mercury retrograde that's going to go down. But all the planets retrograde and the outer planets like Jupiter, everyone from Saturn, from Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, all the way out, when they go retrograde, they do it for 4 to 5 months. So like the last time you and I met, which this is interesting. So now we have a theme going on here. When you and I met last time, Uranus was stationed in the summer to turn retrograde. And then now he's stationing now. He'll turn around in about 3 weeks in the middle of January. So, we've been in a Uranus retrograde since we last spoke.
Okay.
The whole time. But Uranus is going to turn around, that's going to be a big thing coming early in January. As I've been telling people, January is going to hit the ground running. Like 2021 is just going to hit the ground running. It's that kind of energy. It's not going to waste any time in wanting to reveal what changing global truth is all about.
Well, and I've heard a few people talk about that. The January is the new year starts with a bang, really. But how does that show up when you're talking about changing global truth?
So when you're looking at so this is like, what my specialty is that I fuse astrology and numerology together. So when you get a reading from me, I'm always looking at both sides of those coins in your chart, because your name and your birthday has all the goodies for you. It's your map. your name and your birthday provides you with a map for your entire life. So when we're looking at years, universal years, as we call them. So why did we say 2020 was a year of awakening the unexpected? So I do all this from the numbers. So 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0 equals 4. So it was a 4 universal year. So when I look at 4, I'm looking at Uranus, because astrology and numerology cannot be separated because they're guided by the same planets. And that's how I was taught how to do the work I do. They're guided by the same exact planets. So when you're talking about an astrology side of things, or you're talking about the numerology, you're just channeling a planet. That's all you're looking at. And that's what I do. I channel planets. I guess, people say I have like a psychic ability, and I don't look at it as psychic at all. I'm a math person. I'm a whiz at math. I mean, that I'll tell you. What I do is interpret the math on a psychological level or a energetic level. Apparently, this is what I do. I don't realize what I'm doing, but that's what I'm doing. So in 2020, I took, it's a 4-year. So that means Uranus is in charge. So Uranus is the great awakener planet. It's the reformer. It is also the ruler of Aquarius, which Aquarius is, if you know anything about Aquarius energy, Aquarius does everything progressive. They're way ahead of themselves. They're prophetic. They see trends. They know, oh, wow, humans would grab right onto this. This would be something they would like. So they're ahead of themselves all the time. With ideas, they're very original. Most Aquariuses do not follow anything. They're very. They don't even have a box in life. They patent the whole freaking box, and they just they're. I don't want to say they're weirdos, but people think they're a little outlandish, and they think they're a little eccentric.
March to the beat of their own drummer a little bit, right?
You got it. They march to the beat of their own drum. And so do 4s, because it's the same channel of Uranus that comes in, whether you're an Aquarius or you're guided by a 4. So that was what I totally understood. Wow, 2020 is going to be like a year where who knows what's going to happen. It's like a toss-up. It's the unexpected. And then where I pull in the awakening part was because of the 20. Because the 20 in Chaldean numerology, which is the numerology system I practice, 20 represents the awakening. And that's what it's about. It's that everything gets revealed. And it's an emotional energy. And I don't know about you, but I think this year kind of stirred up those pretty good.
Yeah, I think
everybody who hasn't had an emotional experience this year. I mean, let's face it, COVID or not COVID, it's been an emotional experience,
So with the numerology of that 20, what does 21 play out?
So 21 is, so now we're going to upgrade one number. So now we're looking at 5. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 1 is 5. This is math. 21 represents the crown of the Magi. It's a Jupiter-ruled number, but it says the soul testing is over if you've done your homework. So it's changed, and 21 being the number that it is, it's about the world. It's a global, expansive. It wants optimism. It wants to look at the glass as half full. But the other thing about the 21 is it's always about the truth. And if the truth has not been known, it will come out one way or the other. So in knowing that the 5 singular energy of 2021 is a 5, that's Mercury. So our little messenger friend, trickster friend, Mercury, is in charge of 2021, of the truth. So that's where I coined it, changing global truth. because the truth as we know it is going to change across the globe. This is it's a world situation. I had said in my article, Awakening the Unexpected, over a year ago, I had said there was not one person, a heart, as I said, on this planet that was going to not have to simplify their life in 2020. And that there was nobody going to be excused from whatever this awakening thing was. And this was also known in 2020 was an Earth heart shift. That's a powerful lexicon right there. Earth and heart are the same exact letters.
That is interesting.
Why is that? If we're not in our heart, we're not really living on the earth. You're not really here. I mean, well, you're here, but you're not living your truth if you're not living in heart. I mean, that's that. Ask any energy person that question, and they'd be like, "Well, if you're not living in your heart, you're not living in your truth."
So when you're talking about changing global truth, some of it has to do then with just knowledge and what we accept as the truth. Is that correct?
Not only is it what we have, and again, I don't have I don't get into politics. I don't take sides. That's none of my business. But the truth of how things have been presented to us, which when you're also looking at the 5, you're looking at communications. You're looking at any exchanges of information. You're looking at your mentality. You're looking at intelligence. You're looking at how the mindset works. And what will happen in this year ahead is that all of that is subject to change, because that's what Mercury does. He is the messenger of change. He's Quicksilver is how we call him. He's the Quicksilver planet. He's the messenger. He's winging with his little winged feet, and he's zooming all over the place. And then we have his retrogrades to contend with, which will be coming up in 2021, which always happen in any given universal year. But they're going to be, let's put it this way, his retrogrades in 2021 will be more riveting than they normally are.
When is the first Mercury retrograde of the new year, Sharita?
It's going to start January 20th and span until the 20th. January 30th and span until the 20th of February. Okay. Which will also be in the sign that this infamous alignment is happening tomorrow.
Interesting.
Not at the same degree points mathematically, but all this stuff that starts amping up in January. It's like we're going to get like a whoop of a show in January, and then all that's going to be working in the sign of Aquarius, and then it's going to be talking with what's cooking over in Taurus, which is going to be a very tense conversation from what the planets are trying to do up there. They want to change the foundation. They want to change the structure of things. When it relates to humanity's security and value system, like everything's going to get like pretty disturbed. We'll put it there. We'll leave it there lightly. And then all that will start to, there's all these aspects that are going to be happening. And I don't want to get into too much astro lingo because nobody understands what that means. The bottom line is that the energy in January is just intense, folks. It is super intense.
Would you say it's more intense than what we've had in 2020?
If you didn't like 2020, you're not going to like 21. If you're begging for your old life to return, you're not going to like 21.
And you're saying that because of the aspects that you see in the year ahead. I mean, this isn't based on news or anything like that.
I don't watch, Brent, I don't own a television.
That's true. Yeah, we've talked about that.
I don't own a television. This thing, I never have it on. I mean, I have it on. I don't have the sound on it. All the notifications are off. I use it to talk to people and do a little social media work because Instagram works that way. And that's it. I don't use apps on this thing. I'm not addicted to my phone. I have a very peaceful relationship with this thing. Now, yeah, there you go. On the floor you go. So when I got that phone in 2009, and believe me, I was like the last person to get a smartphone. Trust me on that. I was still doing that, little flip thing for a while. And where you had to text, like you had to push a button 3 times to get like the third.
Yeah.
An old-fashioned way of texting. I did that for a long time. But that phone, I remember when I got it and I saw how addicted I got to it. And I thought like, wow, this is a freaking problem. I don't like this. I just didn't like how it resonated with me. And I do feel humanity has a huge problem with these phones. I mean, they've taken over. They've taken people's brain cells over as far as I see it. And I was talking about that a year ago about we need to simplify how we are so obsessed at this point with instant gratification, instant news, instant this, instant that. We're so quick. We got to get it done. The faster we go, the better it supposedly is. And it's such a crock of illusion. We're living our lives. We've been living our lives in an illusion. It is not about going faster. This busy bubble world we have lived in is so falsified. That's not the way life is supposed to be lived. We're out of touch with our heart this way. Truly. At least that's my personal take on how the energy is working, which is why the systems are all breaking down. It's why this awakening happened. Look what happened when we stopped the air travel. As often, we noticed there was a difference in a lot of things. Air qualities did improve in certain. I know that's kind of travel's picked up a little bit, not the way it was though. There's just nothing happening the way that it was. There's this need. There's been this need for a long time to slow down, and people just never did it. They just kept overtaxing their life. They kept stressing out. Our medical care systems got extreme issues with it. And God bless all the frontline workers right now doing what they're doing. But we've got a lot of things out of alignment there. This whole year asked the world, and it's not, just what's happening in America, although America's got its own issues to solve, obviously, like every other country does in this world. Every country has figured out what doesn't work right through this, shelter in place experience that, we've all been asked to do and, in our own way. But, here we are, the whole globe is dealing with the virus again,
Well, and that's what's so interesting about the way astrology plays into it. It's not a particular, it's not a particular sign. This is the global astrology and what's happening, and it is universal. It's not, it doesn't affect just one country. It's been everyone, and the universal theme continues into this new year. And when you were talking about the intensity of January, I guess it's probably just a good idea based on what you see to prepare for just maybe an intense start and some unexpected things to pop up, continuing that theme of 2020.
Well, I do think it depends on where you live, naturally. I don't think complete chaos is going to break out in every single portion of the planet. But what I do foresee and what the energy is definitely saying is that, there's going to be a little bit of turbulence in the force, so to speak, a disturbance in the force as well. There's some violence coming. There's some hairy situations because people, not just here, but it's other parts of the world. People are just not going to stand for their freedom and their individuality being taken away, which is some of what we know is happening depending on, what kind of lockdown you're in, what kind of, and every country has been different with the rules and regulations that they have, put into place. But I honestly say, well, I mean, I do get some countries obviously have much lower cases of this than others, but the majority of the world is dealing with this pretty severely, no matter what. So everybody's dealing with it. But the thing is, humanity's getting a little restless. And that's another thing you're gonna watch in 2021, because Mercury rules the nerves. It rules the nervous system, the digestive system, and it rules how the mental state goes. So what I've said many times is, if you don't understand how to stay grounded, if you don't have any tools for that, if you don't know how to breathe, meditate, really.
A good time to meditate, yes.
Pardon?
A good time to start meditating if you haven't already started that.
Yeah. And here's something else I would really like to, invite people, is to not be intimidated by meditation, because so many people are intimidated by it, or they think it's just this, oh, you meditate, oh, you're just one of those people, you're all wiki woo and lovely. And it's like, meditation should be as common as taking a shower, it just should be, because it's your mental maintenance, and people's mental maintenance is going to be quintessential to discern, to filter, and to not get overwhelmed by what 21's energy is going to dole out. So if you don't know how to breathe properly, and that meditation, all it really is the beginning. If you want to do it simply, just focus on your breath. Take some deep breaths. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. You can do a very simple mantra of, I inhale love, or I inhale light, or I inhale joy, whatever it is that you're lacking, or you think you're lacking in your life, or something that you need, you want to feel better about in your life. What do you want to pull in? Well, inhale that as just like a simple pause, and do it. And then you exhale what you don't want. Exhale anxiety, exhale anger, exhale, worry, which, gets no one anywhere, because that's like running around a hamster wheel. Concern will find you a solution. So I always invite people as well, shift your energy from worry to concern, and you're going to find out you'll get solutions real fast. But if you keep worrying, you're just going to run around like that, and run and run and run. And it's just going to be this, like the definition of insanity. So you don't want to do that in 21 at all.
Yeah. And all those spiritual practices that, we've learned over the years, this year we were called to put them into practice in a big way. And even more so in the new year. We saw some, when we spoke back in August, I guess you could call it a little bit of a lull, or it was not quite as intense at that time. As we move through the new year, do we have any ebbs and flows? Like, let's go through the rest of the year a little bit. How does that play out?
Well, because we are in the 5 universal year now. So now we're going to be real alert to what Mercury does all year. And where is he tootling around in that zodiac? Like for this past year, we've been very focused on Uranus. And what was he up to? Well, he's only been hanging out in the sign of Taurus because he doesn't go any further. It takes him 7 or 8 years to get through one zodiac sign. So that's a long time. So wherever Uranus is hanging out in your chart, which again, right now would be wherever the Taurus area of your life sits, whether that's your relationships, is it your career, is it your family, your creativity, who you are, whatever, your health, however it works. So Uranus has been in Taurus and he hasn't gone anywhere else. But this year is going to be a little different. Mercury goes, he's tootling. He goes through when he doesn't retrograde, he goes through a sign every 2 weeks. As he takes him not that long, but because he retrogrades, then he backtracks for 3 weeks, and then he goes back over what he just backtracked through, and then he goes forward again under, there's the Mercury retrograde approach, the actual retrograde, and then there's the shadow, which is what it takes to retrace what he just went backwards through. Now, what's interesting about 2021 is that he spends all of his retrograde periods in air signs. Now, air in the zodiac is mentality again. It's intelligence. It's your mindset. It's exchanges of information. It's where you think about it, it's air. But we're going to review and redo in organizing the air come January to February. Then we're going to come up in the springtime, moving into summer solstice. We're going to mutate and shift the air and move it all over, disperse the air all over the place. And then by the time we reach the end of September, moving into October, which is the third Mercury retrograde of the year, we're going to lead the air. So it's in Aquarius, in Gemini, and in Libra this year is where all of the Mercury retrogrades fall. But when you add up the transit time that takes, Mercury is only in air signs for 27 weeks out of the entire 52. He spends half the year in the element of air, which is why this year is so mental. And it's going to stir people up more than there already are. Mm-hmm. If you can imagine that part of the equation here, that's what's going to be happening. So, one of the things we really want to be aware of is with people, people that we know who already, maybe weren't doing too well to begin with. We want to keep an eye on them. This year has challenged people's relationships across the board. I know that's been like a huge theme, either, if you're politically divided at this point, or if just the pandemic showed you, hey, this wasn't the best relationship in my life in the first place, depending on what relationship it is. And it's in families, it's in personal one-on-one relationships, and it's in friendships. It's all over the place. I hear people's relationships are just, falling apart and they're not sustainable anymore. And that's okay. If you need to separate from people in your life, then do it. The bottom line is we can't keep doing things if it doesn't feel good to us. We're not meant to do things we don't feel good about. Period. Because if we don't feel good about something, that means we're not standing in our truth and we're not owning our own power. We're giving it away to somebody else, some other belief system, somebody else's truth and somebody else's narrative. I've been talking about this a lot over the past week. I've been doing, follow me on Instagram if you want my little live updates. That's where I've been doing those lately. Although I'll be going to be taking a little holiday break after tonight. So this ought to give everybody enough to chew on for a while anyway. But so every time it's a Mercury retrograde in 2021, due to the energy being amplified in the first place, but when those retrogrades are in effect, off with everybody's heads. I mean, everybody's just going to be like, whoop. The average person who doesn't know or understand energy, doesn't do any kind of work on themselves, that collective energy of people who just go, I don't need to do things like that, and they're just That's what they want to do. And there's nothing wrong with what they want to do, but they're going to be extremely taken by surprise. And you're going to watch people get a little ugly. You're going to watch people lose their ground a little bit if they don't know how to work with themselves.
Well, and how can we work with this in a positive way for our own well-being? So being aware of what's happening, how can we work with that in a way that's positive and helps our own development?
Well, what I've been saying for quite some time is you have to be more silent and listen a lot more in this year ahead and in what is going to be happening, and do your best to the best of your ability. And I know some people, obviously can't stay home, or maybe their work situation or whatever it may be doesn't allow them to stay out of the way very much. But, people need to do what they need to do. But it is time to take a silent listen. It is time to step away from your technology. And I'm not saying, throw everything away. Be discerning about where you're getting your information from. One of the systems that I do foresee is going to go through tremendous changes in 2021 is the media. It will change before your very eyes. The way that it's either being presented to us, there's going to be some interesting things coming out of, I guess, the woodwork, so to speak, just about what we've been told, how it works, and what needs to change about it. So many systems across the world will not work the way that they have been. And again, I know a lot of people want things to go back to this quote unquote sense of normalcy, but everything's got to get reinvented first before we reestablish what it is that life is going to look like post-pandemic times.
Well, I think that's important to think about too, because that's how we move forward.
Exactly. We can't go backwards and go back to what it was to go forward. It's impossible.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're watching us right now, I just want to encourage you to like and subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, we share videos here throughout the week, and you like and subscribe. That helps share this video as well. And on Facebook, if you give us a like there, that would also be great. And appreciate everybody chiming in on the chat. I want to say hi to Tori. She's listening in Wilkes-Barre. Also, Jane in San Diego. Thank you for your comments, and we'd love to, have your participation as well. If you do have a question for
absolutely. If anybody has a question, just to continue on the one that you asked about, what can we do to stay empowered? Is don't believe everything you see or hear. Ask questions. I will always tell people to think for themselves, and think about what you are, do you believe everything you hear?
There's a futurist that I follow.
Question. And again, there is no side to any of this. It is whatever it is. Do you just take it for face value, or do you get a piece of news and do you go, you know what? Is there another side to this that I should explore so that I'm that it's well-rounded? Because there's always two sides to every story in life. No matter what we are being told that they want to allow us to perceive, there's always something else going on.
Well, that goes back to your global truth, right? Where that will be.
I mean, I always say, hey, come on! If you're not there physically to look at it, how do you know it's true? I mean, how do you really know it's true? if you're not physically wherever these people are that you're getting in this information is coming to you from, and if you look at how media is set up, especially across the globe, it's kind of interesting that they all have the same demeanor, and they're trained. They're trained to do what they do. And I know you work in radio, but you're a little different. I personally think a platform like a Power Radio could go to the global nines this year, as I think people want this kind of information more than they want that just mainstream, not really sure, is it true anymore? There's so much information about this coronavirus floating all over the place. Who knows what the truth is about it at this point? Because there's been 50 million things said about it. And, all we got to do is just, keep doing our research and again, be discerning. Being discerning in 2021 is going to be another good friend. And as I always say, if you're not operating from a sovereign place, this everybody being angry and everybody being aggressive is just not going to keep working. One of my favorite lexicograms of all time is, how do we evolve? Mm-hmm. It's encoded in the word. You have to love. So if I ask people in 2021, if you are looking at pieces of information that you're receiving, if it is not done in loving intention, then is it true for you? Does it resonate with your heart space? And if there's a no to either one of those questions, do some research and look around and see if there's something else that you could learn about what the truth could possibly be.
Sharita, I'm curious, are there any signs that will have, a brighter 2021? What's that?
More trouble than others?
Well, I was going to say actually a better year than than maybe the general overall forecast. But
well, the thing is, every sign, again, we are going through this together. Obviously, mm-hmm. Yes, we get that. But our individual experience of it is very different. So we do need to understand what our personal story is in all this. And of course, what I do every week on Empowerscopes is just like this little, like a snippet of information. We wrap that up in 4 minutes for 12 signs, so it's a little nudge in the right direction for you, but it's not going to answer your life questions, that's for sure.
Right. It's just kind of your general horoscope.
Every sign is affected. The thing is that every sign is affected by this. They're just affected by it differently. So, of course, Aquariuses right now are getting like a whole identity. And I don't want to say they're having an identity crisis, but maybe some Aquariuses are like, oh my God, I've been waiting for this my whole life, to get enlightened by this alignment. And then you have other Aquariuses who have no idea what astrology is, and they may be having an identity crisis right now, that kind of thing. The energy could be affecting them in a very what is going on here? They could be thrown, kind of to the wolves, so to speak, with how the energy is working. So, again, depending on how good you've been at doing your soul homework, and again, you don't need to be a spiritual guru and go sit on top of a mountain and not talk to anybody. But do you practice a form of self-renewal every day of your life? Are you involved in just taking a little self-care in your life? This is quintessential to do in the new year, to be able to, again, stay grounded and not be. There's a lot of grief that's about to happen on this planet because there's a lot more healing that needs to be done. I've phrased it like this as well. We've only just begun the heavy lifting.
Well, that's pretty heavy. I don't say
that because I'm being fearful or I want to put a damper on your new year. But it's going to get heavy. It's going to get heavier, as far as what you're going to be presented to filter and discern for your own truth and ask the question, is this true or is this not? But there's going to be some intense stuff that will happen. So there's a grief involved in that, but there's healing involved in that at the same time. So if we can look at it this way, I've said also many times, what will happen over this next year, like anything else when it comes to crisis in life and kind of like not the best situations, people have soul contracts. We agree to everything when we get down here. And I know I may be really going off on a little limb right now if you're not into past lives or you're not understanding that we do recycle the spirit in another human body many times over. And I'm not telling you to believe that if you don't want to. But as far as we can look at it, from that spiritual perspective, the people who things will happen to have agreed to this already. Like their soul has agreed, this is going to be my experience in this global changing storyline. So what we'll see, again, it's going to be some sadness. It's going to be a lot of grief and a lot of sadness. And that's going to be a lot to digest for the average person who has no idea this could be happening. But I think, anybody who's fairly intelligent is on edge right now a little bit, and they really don't know how, because everything feels uncertain right now. But the one thing you should be certain of is yourself. And how are you going to navigate it? Because you can.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, being aware, and that's why we're talking about this. Just like a year ago, you were writing about 2020 and giving everybody a heads up. So we're doing that again now. And a great comment from Jane. She says it's only heavy if you allow it to be so. So being prepared and knowing that things are coming, we still have to work through it. But
and when I say heavy lifting, hey, when people pass away and people cross over, it is heavy. And that's what we're going to watch. We're going to watch a lot of that in 2021. So that's what I say, in being prepared to watch some tragedy kinds of situations like that. That's going to be hard to digest for a lot of people. And if you are empathic on any level or sensitive soul, it's going to affect you. It's going to feel heavy. Yes, we can work it through it, but it's going to be heavy,
Well, and I would encourage everybody to follow along as we get into it. Sharita, you have weekly weekly blogs and emails that you put out, and that's a great way to follow what's happening. And you've got that every week on your site. Subscribe, and also you get alerts about the new Empower Scopes that are coming out too. You just did a big write-up on 2021.
I did. It's on the site, and then of course, in anticipation that you and I were getting together to do this, I want to include this as part of the whole finalization of my presentation there of it. So, knowing we were going to do this last week before you had your unexpected things show up to change the schedule, so I'll be letting that out tomorrow officially. Okay. But yes, it's up on it's on Sharita Star right now. You'll see it. It's on the homepage, and I think I've got it on the right side. I can't remember if I did that already. But it's 2021 Changing Global Truth is the blog post. And so that lays out quite a bit. It talks all about the Mercury and the mental energies and why, the need to be grounded. And what breathing is really all about. There's another lovely lexigram. When we breathe, I'm just going to rearrange the letters of breathe. We bathe the heart rate. We beat the hate. and we be the earth ear. Every time we focus on our breath, those three things will energetically happen and shift. Even if you stop and breathe for 10 seconds of your life, you will shift your energy. If you, see, and this is where another thing, because, we're so caught up in the busy bubble world, right? And everybody thinks like everything's so complicated because we've just decided to do that. We allowed that to happen. Shifting our energy is not complicated. It's not hard. You just have to focus and tend and do it. And you can shift your energy like that. You can let things flow, or you can block it.
Mm-hmm.
That's up to the individual. It's always up to the individual. It's just like a person who, let's say, you have a friend and they want to come at you and they want to get all, rah, 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 and then, maybe you will, meet them in the same intensity. But if you want to shift the energy, you just stop. You tell them, hey, I'm sorry. I just can't do this right now.
Mm-hmm.
You change the whole scenario.
Yep, absolutely.
I also use a nice visual too of, if you want to shift, your direction ever in your life, think of yourself as a boat and think about the front of the boat. If that boat just moves that nose a hair, do you know what kind of a different direction you're going to end up going in? But you didn't turn the boat all the way around 360 or turn it 180 degrees. You didn't even make a right angle. All you did was go like that. And you wound up going that way. Different.
That's a great point.
So that is it. The way that it's like the collective energy wants to change at lightning speed next year. But what we do individually needs to slow down in order to not get taken by the overwhelm and taken away by the overwhelm, or make any kind of decisions in our life that they were made too fast. And of course, the other thing anybody wants to know about as we've touched upon is when the Mercury retrogrades are happening. There's a Mastering Mercury retrograde in 2021. That's another blog post that's linked into the Changing 21 Truth, Global Truth one, because you need to know when to not be initiating things. And that's what I teach. Another course I teach is Mastering Mercury retrograde and how to work with the cycle amicably, because Mercury retrograde is always a cycle of reflection. It's never about initiation. I mean, you could try, but the thing of it is, Mercury retrograde is when human error is highest than it is under any other time of the year. So you don't want to be doing things in 2021 when it's Mercury retrograde that you really want this great long-term outcome with. So you don't launch a business, you don't get married, you don't start a new relationship, you don't start anything of major importance. Some people do, and they seem to have some success with it, but it typically doesn't last long, or it's not sustaining. So it really depends on your goals of what you want to do. You want to do something for 6 months, or you can start it under Mercury retrograde, then go for it. But
Yeah.
Riddled in error, or would you rather it be built in solidarity? So that's why we avoid Mercury retrogrades for that.
I'm curious.
For better things.
One of the more intense times of this year was Mars retrograde. Do we have any Mars retrogrades in the coming year?
Thank God, no.
Okay.
In fact, we are still under the shadow of Mars retrograde, and we will not be out of that little phase until January 2nd. So that's when that's when Mars moves out of the shadow. That's when it actually took. So he turned around on November 13th. It's taken him since November 13th through January 2nd to retrace his retrograde steps. Because he spends 2 months in retrograde, which is what we all experience in September, October, and half of November.
Yeah,
So,
when we had our
pretty
conversation,
rough.
I guess you were warning about that time, and yeah,
And
it
he's
was
been in the sign of Aries since the end of June. I
That's
mean,
a lot of
it's been like forever. You know,
Mhm.
it's been like he spent half the year in one sign. I'm like, okay, we're done. But wait till he gets into Taurus, because if people didn't like how he was in Aries, you're not going to like what he does in Taurus either.
When does that happen?
I think he goes in on I think it's the 4th of I think it's 2 days. Wait a minute. It's 2 days later. Hang on. This is my Bible. January 6th is when he enters Taurus officially. And then he meets up with Uranus later in the month, just a couple weeks later. So then all the fun times begin, because everybody's going to start the Aquarius, the planets that are aligning tomorrow in Aquarius, Jupiter and Saturn, are going to have their little energetic conversation with Uranus and Mars, and why between the tension that is going to create, but it's also the conjunction of Mars and Uranus that's going to be the real precarious one. And that's because when you take a planet like Uranus, which we've talked about, he's a planet of reform, he's a planet of the unexpected, he's a planet of shake it up. I don't know how it's going to fall down once I shake it up, but I'm just going to let it fall down. And everything, we need to just reinvent the whole thing. And then you take Mars, who we all know just went this retrograde thing, and everybody was aggressive. They were a little more bitey. Everybody was, just angry and in conflict and whatever. And we were supposed to be dealing with everything courageously. And the theme I wrote for that piece was staying in your own lane, which pretty much carries over and spills into 2021 story, because you're still going to want to stay in your own lane to the best of your ability, depending again on where you live, as far as I see it.
Okay.
But when you take Mars, who is drive, motivation, desire, and Mars is not afraid to fight at all. Never afraid to fight. It shouldn't, but it's not afraid to do it. When you put Mars next to Uranus up in the sky like that, stay in your own lane.
Good advice.
It's like an explosive, combustible energy. That's the best way to describe it. And it's very earth-shattering because it's in the sign of Taurus, which is earthen. It is fixed earth energy. And then it's talking to what's going on with humanity and like tensing it up. And it's a sticky situation, and I wish I had something more amicable to describe it, but it's an ugly energy. It's not pretty. There's no way to even describe it as a pretty energy. It's going to create new foundations. And again, you want to know how it's really working in your personal story so that you can just work with you and take that silent listen and get involved in the hype and stay safe. You really
I love what Jane said here. That's her theme for 2021. Stay in your own lane. I'm going to adopt that too.
You got it. Stay in your own lane.
By the way, you've got an invite here, Sharita. Jane is a host at Empower, and she'd like to have you on sometime. So
perfect. She can email me. Sure, I'd love to do that, Jane. Thank you. But more people empowered, the better.
Absolutely.
That's how I looked at it.
I'm curious. So we have the conjunction tomorrow morning, 8:30 Eastern time. For
1:21 in the afternoon Eastern.
Oh, is that okay?
It's 10. So that's 10:21 on the West Coast. Am I getting that right? Yeah. And then over in
Europe, you honor that? How are you planning to honor that time?
I'm going to have a bonfire.
Okay, nice.
I'm going to go sit at my fire pit and just sit. I've got this, I'm blessed to be in a very secluded space, and I'm in wilderness here pretty much. And so I've got a gorgeous fire pit, and I'm just going to like sit and do some really good intentions. And it's winter solstice too. So I would do that for the solstice, but I'm kind of just going to pull it all in,
Yeah.
And, write some things down. I'm going to do some journaling. Tomorrow's my day where I'm starting like I'm pretty much having a staycation, even though I've been home. But
was it Sharita? We're already over an hour.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I want to before we wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about where people can find you and follow you and stay in touch with 2021.
SharitaStar.com is the main site. I always encourage people to hop on there, either at the bottom of the homepage or on any top right section. There's a sign up to join the mailing list, or my star tribe, as I call it, and stay informed. What I'm also would not plausibly leave out of the 2021 changing is we may see changes with our social media platforms. So if you're following me on a place like Facebook or Instagram, if something changes with those platforms, we're not all going to stay in touch as easy. So if you're on my mailing list, you'll be able to stay in touch with me. So that would be, my biggest recommendation. At this point, it's anybody's guess what could happen next year, is just as much as it was anybody's guess how this was going to happen this year. But I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to see some pretty serious changes with social media platforms. Just a hunch, because it does deal with communications. And that is part of the big changing theme as well, is our communications are going to severely change in the forms, and the way information is given to us is going to be a big deal in 2021, and people are going to start to make different choices about that too. I see that also happening. So, but SharitaStar.com, that's the best place to get on board. And of course, every week, every Sunday morning, and in Power Radio, your Empower Scopes pop off, and we have those on Twitter all week. And but I'm also on Sharita Star on Facebook, Sharita Star Twitter, Sharita Star Instagram. That's the only three I really do, because that's all the time I've got.
Well, and you have a couple.
I'm going to be quite quiet. You won't see much this week.
Well, and you have some maybe last minute Christmas ideas as well, correct?
Hey, if you're kind of in a bind and you can't get to a store right now, or whatever the case is, PayPal, if you can do PayPal, or I still accept good old fashioned checks, because, they still work for me, and a gift certificate for someone to get a forecast for 2021. If you know somebody who's into this and wants to stay empowered. I also, have my book that I wrote. It's all in the name. I do have a few copies here, so I can get it with, I don't know if I could get it overnight to you, but I do have that. I can mail those out. I sign them, and we could do that. Or you can always I have a few belated presents I didn't get in the right places early enough either. So, the whole thing about the holidays this year, I've said, let's forget about all the big fancy presents, because and if you're in any kind of other spiritual community, you're hearing this whole conversation of the 3D world is diving and the 5D world is about to thrive. And everybody's like, what does that mean? So 3D is this three-dimensional. It's the material, greed, power, manipulative kind of world. So any of that energy is not well supported anymore energetically on the planet, as this alignment will happen tomorrow officially. and what moves forward in 2021. And 5D is just the understanding that you're looking at life with a different set of lenses, and you're looking at it in a 5-dimensional way, meaning, oh, it's not just about the money anymore, and it's not about who's elected in office. It's not about these 3-dimensional concepts. It's about your soul, your spirit, the earth, your heart. It's the unknown of what meditation can do for you, what getting into just honoring the simplicity of respecting our planet, respecting ourselves, and respecting other people. And that is what 5-dimensional living is about, and understanding that there's something else out there for us to grasp besides this tangible, touching, feeling world that people are just too sucked into in a way that they're unhealthy, they're getting sick, and there's all of this, they're stressed out, they're you know, there's just too many things of alignment. And that's why this awakening has happened over this past year. And now we're going to move into looking at a different way to look at the truth, whether it's about the global truth or it's a truth about ourselves.
Sharita, PD has a question. Why is 40 skipped over? Why do we go from 3 to 5?
That's a good question. Ask my colleague Adam Bernstein. He'll know the answer to that. I don't, you know, I don't know from an I couldn't like explain it to you from an astrology, numerology perspective. Why is it skipped? That's something that a medium's going to tell you. It's because it's not my specialty to tell you that, but I do know the difference between 3D and 5D.
Great question, though. Thanks, PD. And if anybody else has a question,
and I've never thought of it myself, so good question to ask, actually. But
yeah,
I'm sorry, I don't have a direct answer right now.
But Sharita, we're going to be following you at sharitastar.com, and definitely with the weekly Empower Scopes, and encourage people to subscribe to those too. If you get your podcasts on Apple or Google, subscribe. Same with iHeart or Spotify. And we of course have them every week on our live stream and on the website, and share them across social media. But I really appreciate your insights. Any final words of wisdom, Sharita?
Find your happy in 2021 and be happy. No matter what you're going to watch going on with the collective, with humanity, find your way to find your own happiness. Do what makes you feel good, and you will be honoring everything. And don't feel guilty about it either. No matter what you think you see going on, not what you think, but whatever you're being, whatever you're watching that's going on in the world. Don't feel guilty, because you're going to find some of your own pleasure, and that you find you're happy. But if anything else, honor your truth and stand in your power, and recognize it's not meant to ever be taken away from you.
That's a great place to end. Thank you so much, Sharita. Great conversation, and thank you for the insight as we prepare for the year ahead. It was great chatting with you tonight.
Thank you so much, as always, for having me, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of the wonderful Empower Radio family. This has been, I don't know how many years now, but I'm losing track. In fact,
figure that out.
I'll finish with this, because somebody reached out and said, "Oh, congratulations on your." They were trying to market something for me, and they were like, "Congratulations on your 150 episodes of Empower Scopes." And I'm like, "Did you do your homework, honey?" And I started.
Way more than that.
We've done over 1,000 episodes.
Wow.
We've done over 1,000 episodes of those Empower Scopes. I had to do the math, and I was like, "Well, they're not 150." But it's been many years since we've been doing the Empower Scopes, so thank you for that. And it's a pleasure to do them every week. So
I listen to them every week. I look forward to them. So really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Sharita, and look forward to connecting with you again in the new year.
Thank you, everyone. Happy New Year. Safety always. Stay in your own lane and stand in your truth.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody. And we look forward to empowering you more in the new year. Happy holidays.